We're coming online. That's good. It's 5:30. My name is Steve. Welcome to this community meeting for the 451 El Camino Real University Station. Just a little house cleaning here. We did change room around on you guys, so we put a poster up just to we moved to city council chambers and then got kicked out of that. So we're back here at the cafeteria. So we'll wait and maybe give like another 2-3 minutes for other people to come in. Door should be unlocked, so I would probably check that too. So 2-3 minutes and then we'll resume. But there's a sign up sheet or sign on sheet here. You just sign in if you can. Sign we did. Thank you for that. And the meeting is recorded, so it's going to stay recorded now. Okay. Right back.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they want to keep me out of here.
And, wait, yeah, I was thinking maybe Saturday. Yeah, okay, yeah. Saturday, yeah. What is your name? You live in the okay. A little bit later than Sunday. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole interesting debate for this particular house.
Yes.
You're busy.
That's kidding.
Yeah. No, I mean. All right.
Yes. Very good.
Yeah.
We paused right now.
No, the recording is still just hybrid, so the picture.
Oh, I got you. My side view, right?
Oh, you see the view?
Yeah, it's very, yeah, it's great.
Okay, all right, everyone, thank you for coming. It's now 5:34. Again, it was a little house cleaning issues. We said it was gonna be at the council chambers, so we switch it over here. So we gave a little bit 5 minutes for people to come here. But we can start now. It is a recorded meeting. It's a hybrid meeting. We have folks online and here. My name is Steve, project planner for this project at 451 El Camino Real University Stations project. And today is the community outreach meeting. It's going to be hosted by the developer, Eric Morley, representing Bixby. And so I'll hand it over to Eric. I'll be here taking notes, but won't be answering your questions. We do have our contact, the end of the slide, my business card, but we want today's comments here to the project. Okay, so
Great, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming out. I'm gonna pull up. Yeah. Everyone see that okay? Great, thank you very much for coming out tonight. I see a couple of familiar faces here. I'm Eric Morley. I'm with the Morley Brothers on behalf of Bixby Capital Management, Bixby Land Company, the owner of 451 El Camino. And what I thought I would do tonight is just do a real brief overview of Bixby, the property itself. Then I'll talk about the proposal, but really leave time open for questions that you may have or any feedback. We do have the sign-in sheet circulating. I think most everyone got it. But what I thought I would do tonight is first just a little bit about Bixby. Very kind of interesting history. California-based, was actually founded in 1896. Long roots in California. In 1910, actually built the first Sears and Roebuck's store down in Long Beach here in California. Bixby is a private REIT, and early on in Bixby's history, they were focused on retail. That then transitioned over many years into office, and then today Bixby is primarily focused on industrial and logistics. So this property is actually one of the only remaining office properties that they own. They're a vertically integrated company, which means obviously from investment to development to redevelopment to asset management and construction. I'm Eric Morley with the Morley Brothers. We're based in Silicon Valley. We are developers, we're real estate investors and advisors, and we've teamed up with Bixby, given our focus on residential for the project. And we've been doing development in Santa Clara for about 20 years, including being fortunate to be on the team for Rivermark. For those of you who remember that process way back when, we were on the development team for Rivermark, for the Bayrek site, involved in senior housing, and then also with Intuitive and Intel and Prologis in the community. So just a little bit of background on us. Just for context, and I may sit down and use the cursor just for a moment, but I think everyone's probably familiar with the site. This is just a context aerial. Obviously, we have El Camino Real located here, Caltrain line, the airport. Santa Clara University is obviously our largest adjacent neighbor. And then down on Campbell Avenue, both in the city of San Jose and in the city of Santa Clara, kind of a range of single family detached homes and townhomes. And then immediately adjacent to us is Santa Clara University owned housing. And then I'm going to zoom into the site for you just to give you a sense of the context. Again, we have El Camino Real, we have Franklin Street located here, and then Campbell Avenue, Santa Clara University here, and Caltrain here. As you see, this kind of super block was originally developed as kind of one development, and it includes a hotel that's located here on Franklin. This 10,000 square foot retail center, it's actually owned by Bixby, and that includes the Bank of America, Starbucks, and there are 1 or 2 vacancies currently. And then this building that you see here is owned by the Serato organization, and it is fully occupied and leased by Santa Clara University. And then Bixby, our property is these 4 buildings. Here it's 216,000 square feet in 4 buildings, plus a parking garage here and a parking garage located here. So that's just kind of the overview. I will note on this slide, you see this line located here. 95% of the project is located within the city of Santa Clara. And even though this is one parcel, there's a little sliver that is in the city of San Jose. And so I'll talk about this in a minute. We've been working with the city of Santa Clara, the city of San Jose, on a detachment of that site from San Jose and then annexation into Santa Clara. It's a very small parcel. It's inaccessible. It's basically a landlocked parcel. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And then once I'm done with the presentation, we'll walk through questions and comments. But that's kind of the existing context. This site was formerly Mayfair packing plant, a cannery site. And then when we get into architecture, we'll talk a little bit about how we've approached the architecture in terms of kind of reclaiming some of that look and feel for the buildings. As we look at the proposed site plan, I did want to highlight that because of the existing hotel, retail, and office, it was very important that we maintain the existing street pattern that you see here, the entrance off of Franklin, the two entrances off of El Camino Real here to continue to provide access here and here, and then off of Campbell Avenue. So we've maintained the existing street pattern for the project. And what we've done is we've have this in two different development typologies. And right up on El Camino Real, very similar in form to the Benton that was completed by Prometheus. In this location, we have 297 apartments, a combination of studios, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. And then this is a 5-story building, and it actually wraps. What you see in gray here is a 6-level parking garage. So the parking garage actually won't be visible from the public realm. We actually wrap the buildings and the architecture around that garage as opposed to it being separate or standalone or a podium. And then in this location here, we have 111 townhomes, 2- and 3-bedroom unit townhomes. And then we have just under 3/4 of an acre of private open space that will serve the apartments located here in the central courtyard, and then located at grade here along Lane B. And then we've included a linear park that runs the entire length and really all the way through. And then these little kind of pocket parks interspersed as well that have barbecues and tot lots, half-court basketball court, barbecue and play areas. Let me just go. The site, the project will meet the city's affordable housing requirements. There will be 15% affordable housing for both the apartments and also for the townhome development in accordance with the city's affordable housing requirements. And then we will also be including, just like I said, just under 3/4 of an acre of private open space, but also paying just under about $17 million in park fees that will be contributed to go to nearby parks and other amenities in the city. So really significant financial contribution for parks. We've also created very clear, clean, and direct access to Caltrain and integration there. And then in terms of kind of the look and the feel, actually, I'm going to go up one slide. So when we look at these two renderings of the architecture, the first view angle that you'll see is actually entering here on lane C. We really wanted to create a nice entry statement and tie in the retail and the apartment. We've included all of our lobby and kind of activity space and leasing here at the ground floor to really activate that right at this entrance. So the first view you'll see is there. And then the second view you'll see is on the linear park here, looking at this group of townhomes. So just wanted to give you a sense. What you see here is this is the El Camino Real view. It's a combination of brick, wood look, cementitious material that's very, very rich in nature and wears extremely well located here to get those kind of natural elements. And then some of these warmer, darker tones here with all of this white brick to create a lot of articulation and a lot of variety in terms of materiality. But as I mentioned, this was originally industrial. This was originally a packing plant. And so we drew from some of the architectural inspiration of more of that former kind of more industrial look and feel, but really kind of respecting that past, but bringing it into the future. It's hard to see in this at this angle or at this scale, but we've even introduced in these railings both cherry blossom and coloration in the spandrels and in the railings in these locations here. So we've got really nice street frontage. All of the parking actually sits inside of this building. So on this edge, the only entry that you see to the parking is there, and then all the parking is hidden within the building. And then we have a 360-degree wrap of all of that architecture around the buildings. So that's the apartments. And then the townhomes, we've picked up on the kind of materiality. We wanted to kind of integrate this as a neighborhood from a look and feel perspective in terms of both brick accents, the kind of internal wood look features, and then some of the stucco as well. We've introduced some board and bat, but maintaining some of those similar colors. And then just to give you kind of an overview, there are 408 units total. As I mentioned, 297 apartments, and then there are 111 townhomes. The project complies with the city's general plan. No zoning change is required. The project is filed under SB 330. And so the approvals that are being requested from the city is an architectural review. Oh, yes.
I have a question. So SB 330 requires 20% affordable. Did you say there's 50?
You have the 15.
15.
15.
But SB 330 requires 20.
It does.
Builder's remedy.
This is SB 330.
Exactly. Yeah, no, thanks for good clarification. So the obligations or the requirements are an architectural review application, which is on file at the city on the website today, as well as the vesting tentative map, essentially the lotting plan. We do have the sliver that will be detached from the city of San Jose, and then it will be annexed. As part of that, the city of Santa Clara, as part of all the approvals, will do essentially a pre-general plan designation and a pre-kind of zoning for that little triangle. So as we're going through the hearing process, you'll see these other kind of trailing administrative items. We've been working very closely with the city of San Jose and the city of Santa Clara. That's frankly why it's taken some time to kind of move the project forward, working through the mechanics of those. We do have Steve Lee here this evening. He is the project planner for the city of Santa Clara. We also have Jason Lee here with the city of San Jose. He is the project planner for the project. We're really at the beginning of this process. I will also note, let me just just go up one more. I will also note that the city is preparing an environmental impact report for this project. You may have gotten a notice. I mean, if you didn't, let me know, and I'm happy to make sure that you get one. The city has noticed, and the city is sponsoring a meeting in this room at this time on June the 4th, next Thursday evening. It's a scoping meeting for the EIR for this project. That process is city-led and really will commence really over the next year. So I don't anticipate any near-term action following that. I think probably our hope is that in the spring of next year, that will be before the city in the hearing process. But then after that, we file for construction drawings for the actual buildings. We file for demolition permits, our improvement drawings. We also will be working on the final map for the project. So we do have once the approvals, the kind of initial approvals happen, we still have some work to do. So the hope would be to break ground toward the end of next year. And then it's about a 24 to 30 month construction process. There'll be some kind of concurrent construction between the townhomes and apartments. But really, the apartments will take a little bit longer because it's a single building. So that would trail in terms of completion. And then, as I mentioned, the project contacts Steve Lee with the city of Santa Clara, and then Jason Lee with the city of San Jose. My contact information is here. I'll also, by the way, stay after the meeting. I'm going to really turn it over for questions in a moment and feedback. But I'll leave my card if you would like to, if you have follow-up questions after this meeting, or if I don't have an answer to one of your questions this evening, I'll be sure to follow up. I've got your contact information, but also if you'd like to meet one-on-one or in a small group, we've begun that process early on with Old Quad, and we'll be doing a meeting with them in the near term as well to be scheduled, but wanted to just let everyone know I'm very available to either tonight via email or one-on-one, if you have any follow-up questions, and not just now, but, as we move through the process. So with that, I'll just really would love to open it up to, questions and feedback. And what I'll do is I'll start just for those in the online. We have some participants online this evening. What I'll do is start with the questions and comments from those in the audience here. We have about 9 people in the audience for those that are online. And then what I'll do is if you'll raise your hand, then I will go ahead and happy to call on those that are on via Zoom. And again, thank you to the audience joining via Zoom as well. So with that, happy to answer questions or take any feedback. Yes.
Actually, process question, that's for Steve, as I usually do. Is this close enough to a train station that comes to HLC?
Yes, it will go to HSC, but again, just to remind, please give questions to the developer. Happy to stay after too, if those questions.
I just want to make sure what I can say here.
Oh, by the way, thank you for asking the question. Exactly. Good call. Yeah, thank you. Any questions? Yes.
The intersection at Okokie is a real concern now,
Intersection at.
at Okokie and Campbell, so I mean.
Yes.
It's already, as you make, there's no dedicated left turn lanes turning onto El Camino coming from the east to the west. Our concern is gonna be, it's gonna get worse, with, higher density, more traffic. Maybe the same concern down at the Palm Drive, Franklin entrance as well, especially that Okokie one now is bad. The traffic coming down from Campbell Avenue coming on, feeding now, and with traffic coming from this. Has there been an evaluation of that intersection?
Yeah, good question. So for those online, the question related to kind of intersection analysis, Campbell Avenue, Franklin and Culte. And so as part of the city's review, they're undertaking operational analyses that hasn't been completed, that will be completed. We've also met with Santa Clara University, and I think we're focused on both the Franklin intersection to the project, also Campbell, just in terms of site specific, because we do have both residents and pedestrians that are doing that cross. And so the city will be looking at some intersection stacking intersection turning movements as well. I will also say that when the office building is at 216,000 feet of occupancy, office generates substantially more traffic than residential. That being said, the time of day is different, right? And those turning movements are different. So yeah, the city will undertake some of those studies. I would recommend that if not, we'll obviously coordinate with the city, but at the scoping meeting or in a note to the city, you may want to just log that as something that you'd like evaluated. I want to make sure it gets captured. So I want to just kind of hit it from both sides, I'll note it for the city, and then if you could as well, that would be great, so that it gets captured in their review. Yes.
I would just echo not only the intersections with El Camino, but the intersection of the entrance and exit off of Franklin and the entrance and exit off of Campbell are gonna be, they're already difficult, and I can hardly imagine more traffic without significant improvements to those intersections, so I think that needs to be noted, and Campbell is a dead end.
It is,
So,
exactly.
Those townhomes are gonna be trapped a little bit, I'm afraid, by the current configuration.
Yeah, the good news for the townhomes, and I'll see if I can bring this up, is that they actually have multiple points of ingress and egress. The townhomes have, and the apartments have really, 4 ingress and egress points. There's Campbell, there's lane A, B, and C. So they can exit immediately, at Campbell. They can exit, onto Franklin into that intersection, and there are 2 exits onto El Camino. So in terms of traffic dispersion and ingress and egress, the good news is there are 4 points. That being said, point well taken, and I think it's very valid to be setting those. Yeah. Good. Yes.
Would you consider increasing the density of the project? This is a prime area, as you noted, across from Santa Clara University. Housing is obviously a big concern, and we often, in the neighborhoods, we're concerned when a 4 or 5 story project goes up nearby our single family homes.
Right.
This is kind of an ideal location for higher density, and I was just, will the hotel be a higher density location at some point? Will the retail area be a higher density location? What are your thoughts?
No, good question. So, and for those online, the question was, would you consider higher density? And then also, will the retail and the hotel ultimately be higher density? So I'll kind of take that in 2 parts. The retail is not part of the project. It is owned by Bixby. The hotel is not owned by Bixby. That's a separate owner. And then the Sobrato building that's occupied. So in terms of that block, those are all within the station area plan, the specific plan that's currently being undertaken. And there is a significant increase being considered for this block as part of that plan that's in the early stages. For this project, we studied very carefully the balance between kind of density and feasibility, right? And constructability and kind of delivering housing in the near term. So many of you know that in terms of the current near and really midterm market, in terms of constructing projects that are over that either 5-story wrap or podium, going up to mid-rise and high-rise into that much higher density. Those projects today, and even back to 2000, really up until about 2017, 18, were just not financially feasible. The construction costs, the absorption, the rents are not financeable. There was this little window of time in 2018, 19, when you saw the related projects, Tasman East, where everything matched up very, very well. So you're seeing those were able to be constructed. So our goal was to be able to present a project that complied with the city's general plan, that did not require a zoning change, that provided significant density at about 72 units to the acre in the wrap project, and then obviously lower on the townhomes. But we want to be in a position to deliver housing that can help meet the housing crisis. And we're not in a position, to wait 5, 7, or 10 years as that plan moves forward, and also for the market. And so we really tried to balance that. My brother and I work on transit-oriented developments throughout the Bay Area and Silicon Valley. We understand that mix between feasibility and density, and what we've tried here is try to deliver a balanced plan that will make a significant dent in housing availability, but then also delivering a housing affordability to families and individuals. So is that helpful to kind of break those two?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay, any other questions from those that are here? Yes.
I want to talk about architecture. If there were any other questions related, I'd rather them go first.
Yeah, sure. So any other questions about either the plan or the project, and then we'd happy to move into architecture. Yes.
Yeah, speaking of the density, did you consider adding another story to the apartment complex? Because I think you can typically go 6 and still be at 3.
Yeah, we could, we talked about this too on the call, went back to the team, and from a construction cost, construction timing, absorption. Basically, that the additional time that it takes to add that floor, the cost for that floor, the time it takes to then release those units, because we really can't release this building and start leasing it until it's all done. And so for us, it wasn't feasible to add that floor, but after we chatted, I went back to the team. Technically, it could be done, but then it was not working from a financial feasibility perspective. So we again went back to that balance of being able to deliver that balanced project. That's where we landed, where we did on both sides.
So in other words, I think the station area has commercial requirements, but it's regional mixed use in the general plan. Do you have any commercial space in this?
Yeah, so the question for those on Zoom is, do we have any, the station area plan has a requirement for commercial space, do we have any commercial? This site is not part of the station area specific plan, but it is in the station area mixed use. The station area mixed use has an up to requirement that is basically 0 up to an FAR. And so that's basically 0 to, I don't have the actual FAR number. What we've done, and we've had a lot of conversations about this internally, is what we want to do, and we want to be very careful about, I think it's important for the city, is we want to make sure that we, regardless of this project, we right size our retail. We own a 10,000 square foot retail shopping center immediately next door. Benton has been online for just about 4 or 5 years with significant unleased retail. And so what we don't want to do is compound that retail, cannibalizing that retail. I have 2 vacant spaces today immediately next door that have been vacant for 2.5 years that we just literally cannot lease. Benton has similar issues there. And so what we've done, and we don't want to do, is have include retail space and then have that retail space have paper up on the windows and have it vacant. So what we've done is we've incorporated at the ground floor 5,000 square feet of activated leasing space, community space, amenity space to really have that look and feel from an architectural perspective. It feels like a kind of a retail environment up on the corner. So that was our approach there.
Yeah, because I thought regional mixed use generally has a minimum bar.
Yes, so
I didn't answer. Yeah. There's a singular question. So the regional mixed use does have a 0.15. However, this is a stationary sanitary station regional focus area mixed use, and that includes up to 0.3. Don't know why you choose this one to use that language as an indicator. Maybe that is because it's before the specific plan, so maybe it was just a guide to get up to 0.3, but because it says up to, there's no minimum there.
good question. And also just wanted to give you a sense of not just meeting a requirement, but also just kind of the rationale around creating activated space at the ground level, but also not wanting to hurt further the existing retail. Okay, what we'll do, and for those on Zoom, we have a question and maybe more on architecture. And then when we close that with those in the audience here live, then I'll roll it over to those online. And I see Matthews raised his hand, so we'll be with you in just a moment.
Okay, great. So could you go back to the, let's go to the apartments.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And I kind of agree with the sentiment here. I mean, the frustration, and I know the challenge from a developer is that, there's the near term and then there's long term. And long term, there's a lot more going on in this area. And of course, you being a transit-oriented development or developer, understand that in a perfect world, we really have a plan in place that would synergize everything, right? Because then everybody wins. I do think, I was heavily involved in the Bennett architecture.
Exactly.
I was a community outreach
Yeah.
architect. They listened, I met with them individually, to steer it in towards the more warehouse, individual warehouses, not one monolithic thing that's kind of, I call it collage architecture. But that had a little more rhythm of different building styles, forms, so it wasn't monoblock by one developer. Because that's what our history is in the city. When I look at the left photo up there, it feels more office-like to me, and it doesn't feel warehousey because the window patterns don't carry all the way down very well. They're actually coming in between the larger openings on the first floor. So there's the beauty of old warehouses, they're building a brick or whatever, and there's the structural form carried down. I don't see that on this building. I see it more of sort of a wrap or skin that doesn't really relate to what old style structure is. And my goal with architecture is to get soul in it, because that's what's lacking in the city. Go down El Camino Real, there's not a lot of architecture with a soul, and a soul has to deal with, not using technology to bypass old ways that we used to use to build. So I'd rather see more verticality. I also feel like the white portion is sort of a wrap on this brown element. Whereas at the Benton, what I worked with them on is, if you look, there's a beige brick building on the corner. Then there's a red brick building. And then there's corrugated metal buildings. So it's not one big building with a similar, what do we call it? Palette?
Vernacular.
Yeah, vernacular and palette. Like it actually felt like they were individual buildings. And New York City is a great example of brick buildings that when they went up on the upper story, they blacked it out. Okay, but the buildings were original and they're brilliant and they're tall, a lot taller than this, so it can be done. And then you can put steel on the first floor that splits, spans across the upper window pattern like a double bay. But that is if it was adapted, right? So there's ways you can do it so it has this authenticity. And it's really a cool thing to look at because, I personally don't think it costs much more. I generally think that most architects these days design from the inside out. And they don't go enough back and forth between outside
Outside and inside.
and it just, I do it all the time
Yeah.
until it's right. Because I just can't accept something that's flawed, in that way. So my recommendation, shouldn't feel like a monoblock. And again, the palette that you're using carries along, and I get that it breaks up here and there, but it still feels like one developer did it. And it might feel a little bit better if it looked like, oh, this corner building was the original, and it's brilliant, and then there was infill done. Or there's two buildings, and then they did infill. So it's just a different way to package it. And so that's a big thing. The Benton thing I don't like is the way they did their balconies, where they have the steel come out and they have angled rods coming out.
I'll look at that again. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, we know Prometheus well, we've toured it
Yeah,
inside and out, and great feedback, by the way.
Yeah.
So we'll take a closer look at that.
yeah, and I'm certainly willing to meet with you guys, because if you talk to Marilyn at Prometheus, I met with them probably half a dozen times.
Yeah,
to
and
get-
she's a good friend, and she,
Okay.
yeah, so we'd be happy to do that. Would love to do it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more in the room? Okay. And for the participants, just give me just a moment.
I can help you with that too.
Do you mind?
Yeah, you want to call them first?
Sure. And I didn't see the order, but let's call on Matthew first, followed by Danny, followed by Frank.
Sorry.
Okay.
Maybe not. Oh, it's over there.
Danny will be with you in just a moment. Just got a little logistic.
Matthew, you can unmute yourself and.
There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, perfect. Hi, Matt.
Fantastic. So, yeah, I'm so sorry I'm not there. I'm sick today, so it's really for your benefit that I'm not in the room with you. But I represent the Newhall Neighborhood Association. We're the portion that's basically down Campbell Avenue into San Jose. So, you know, we're thinking the Spanish style houses in Ponto and the Grove down to the townhouses near Newhall Park, the Pulse Altura project. And then the historic neighborhood that sits kind of behind that, between the tracks and El Camino. I guess technically the Alameda at that point. So very nice to meet you. I think we have a good reputation for working well with developers. We had a great relationship with Sobrato when the villas came in, and we went to a community meeting much like this, had some very good conversations about traffic flow, pedestrian safety, and architecture, all of which were really resolved in a satisfactory manner. Now, a few questions, I guess, in general about the project scope and the overall design. So I assume that this is something you have to finance. Bixby doesn't have the wherewithal to be able to carry this project on its own.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yep.
Okay, good. I just want to, I've got my computer on mute, but it's coming through the main system. Any project like this is financed in some way, right? So there's, you know, equity and debt for projects, you know, like this for both the apartment and townhome product or projects.
Okay. And the townhome project is intended to be owned or to be rented?
The apartments are intended to be rented, and then the townhomes will be for sale. We have not identified a builder partner for either at this point, but they will be for sale.
Okay. All right. I think in general, the concern with that, you know, usually you don't hear neighborhood associations talking about, you know, more densification, but the piece that's really concerning about that is when you go to individual and condominium style ownership models, that essentially locks in that entire zone forever into that density. And given the fact that we're steps from BART at that point, seems to be a tremendous loss in terms of potential for the site. So is there a model potentially where you essentially bank the portion of the land that you would have allocated the townhomes, and, you know, since you have the financing for it, get the townhome piece, I'm sorry, get the apartment building, the podium in place and up and running, and then as financing becomes available, as the market becomes more favorable, to consider, you know, something similar on what you originally intend for the townhome side?
Yeah, we haven't considered the townhomes as for rent or that sequencing, but I appreciate the kind of the thought process there. Yeah, let me chew on that.
Absolutely, no problem. And then on the retail portion, I know you mentioned that retail has low occupancy rates. I think one of the classic criticisms of that is because the owners of those are trying to maximize the rents and or trying to keep out small guys that are kind of believed to be harder to manage than maybe a large national chain. So, you know, thinking about, you know, I understand they're trying to activate it with leasing offices, which is logical. But, you know, really losing access to that space, how does that, you know, play with the idea of potentially subsidizing that to allow somebody to come in and be able to turn a profit, you know, not a ghastly profit, but, you know, a profit nonetheless, and make it more attractive retail space?
Yeah, good question. So, you know, there are kind of two pieces to that. With the retail that we own next door, where we have vacancies today, and they've been vacancies, for those of you who, you know, are headed to Starbucks or going to the shopping center, you've seen this owner, it is more important for that to be occupied and filled and activated as a center than the amount of money for rent. our preference would be to have that be a fully activated center because it benefits all of our tenants. And so in that instance, it's not about it's not about the economics, it's about the kind of plight of, of real estate at that location. In terms of our building, we're not displacing retail in the apartment building. We're just adding, we're including 5,000 square feet of high bay, two-story high bay, both leasing amenity space for the development. So while it's not retail, it's kind of set up that way to kind of look and feel and activate that way, given the uses we've included there.
Yeah, and I think given, the fact that you are a committed retail landowner in the immediate area is, a mark in your favor compared to someone that was just going to come in and build something, without the adjacent retail. It makes sense to me. And I would only hope that if in a future phase you decided to redevelop and densify the portion with a shopping center, then you would then try to create at least a net zero, if not net positive retail footprint there, because you still have the ground floor to deal with. So just that's just a comment more than anything that needs a response. The more major question I think from our neighborhood is definitely the Campbell Avenue access. We have a very awkward intersection at the hairpin turn. It's already, some people said that it was already crowded, and crowded is one way of putting it, but I think it's borderline dangerous because we have a very high level of pedestrian and student. The students tend to be among the less observant or less interested in managing traffic flow from what we observe. And they cross not only the small cut to get into the existing office development, but then also at El Camino, which is a separate issue. That small cut that dumps into the hairpin intersection has been a source of concern, especially if we're to deal with densification on the Santa Clara side. And I know there will be a traffic study. In fact, I think the deputy at DOT that is in charge of that sort of thing was at San Jose when a lot of our Campbell Avenue neighborhood went in, and understands that there are some agreements in place already surrounding that. But in an ideal world, agreements between San Jose and Santa Clara regarding the intersection. But I would say that it'd be better off just to close it completely. And is there a feasible approach that would allow closing that or making it at a minimum an exit only from the development as opposed to allowing entrance, which is where you have traffic that cross-cuts the hairpin. So that may be a better EIR scoping question, but at least from the applications or the applicant side, I'd hope you'd be open to considering some different options in terms of traffic flow at that intersection.
Yeah, no, thank you. And obviously, you and your neighbors live that every day. So this is good granular feedback for us. Two thoughts. One, I think it would be good to identify that in the EIR scoping so the city can study that. I think from the applicant perspective, I'll look at that. The challenge is we're not the only landowner and property owner at that intersection. So Sobrato and Santa Clara University utilize that access as well. We don't independently or solely control, and we have obligations to keep that drive aisle open. And so, but I think I'll at least explore that. And then on the city side, I think you're right. I think you just identified that as a study topic in the environmental review. I think that's the best approach, but we'll look at that. We'll look at it.
Yeah. Thank you. And just to clarify, I think that the Santa Clara University building on the corner actually has no traffic access to Campbell, whether through your property or otherwise. So I believe all of their access is straight off El Camino. Worth double checking, but.
Oh yeah, I could probably pull it up, but it does have access. I'll just pull it up for the. Yeah, there's let me just show you real quick, just for the group. So there is, if you can see Campbell Avenue, somebody comes, say, off of El Camino, makes a left. into this drive aisle, and there's a cut right here to access. It's here and here, and then right there.
But there's a raised barrier there, so you actually can't do that.
I think there's still, yeah. Yeah, you go around. Yeah. So you can kind of tuck it.
It's very convoluted. Yeah, I would.
And I agree with this area is worth study.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying in terms of that cross traffic left in. I got you.
Yeah. Okay. And then finally, just architecturally, the townhomes very challenging to appreciate. The apartment building much more so, but to the extent that we have a lot of success with Sobrato integrating their initial architecture designs into the Spanish style SCU Campbell Avenue vibe. So that'd be something I'd look at. Obviously, you have an architect in the room has a much better vocabulary for these sorts of things. But that said, that would be something we'd also be interested in looking at.
Got it. And then I may need a hand. Yeah. Well, I've got you. Let me see if I can do it. Do I just click on the hand?
One day, you
Hold on.
would just go to laptop.
There you go. Okay, Danny, go ahead and try to unmute. There we go. Danny, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely, yeah. So my name's Danny Mangan. I'm a union rep for the Sprinkler Fitters, UA Local 483. I represent, roughly 900 members in our local active members, many who live in Santa Clara. So yeah, the main reason I wanted to join this meeting tonight was just to make sure that our members, especially our local resident members, have an opportunity to work on this project. This seems like a great project to work on. So, I guess my question would be, what guarantees can be provided that our members will be able to work on this project?
Yeah, great, Danny. Thank you. Yeah, and I've had an opportunity to meet with your lead for the NEPS most recently. So have started a dialogue there. At this point, we are so early in the process. We're just not there yet, and that's what I shared in terms of the construction piece. And that we had committed in about, I don't know, every 6 or 8 months to continue to reach out to your trade union and others. So we've already started that dialogue with some of your colleagues, and happy to continue that with you as well.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. And yeah, looking forward to continuing the conversations. For sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You bet. And then if you'll go on to mute, Danny, I'll yep, Frank. Okay, so Frank, you can go ahead and unmute. There we go. Hi, Frank.
Yeah, hi, how are you? My name is Frank Austin, and I'm similar to Danny. I'm a assistant business manager for UA Local 393. We're the plumbers, pipe fitters, and HVAC technicians that cover Santa Clara County. We have a little over 3,100 members, many of which live right there in Santa Clara. And, our union is no different than Danny's or a lot of the other unions that make up the Santa Clara County building trades. And, we work hard to create skilled and trained workforce, provide our members with high quality healthcare, and an opportunity to retire with dignity by providing a pension and stuff like that. So, building housing in Santa Clara, San Jose, wherever, anywhere in our valley, there's a level of quality that we want to assure these buildings are put in with. And our unions throughout the building trades, that's what sets us aside from others, right? Is the quality of craftsmanship, the skilled and trained workforce, the safety of the projects that we put in. The buildings being of quality kind of ensures a safer product for the public for the residents that live in the community, that live in our community, right? So, I've kind of got a similar question for you that Danny had. We want to make sure that our members are, for one, working on these projects. We have members that live in the area that want to work in the area that they live in. But for two, I think you guys as a developer and a landowner or whatever, however you want to phrase it, should be concerned about providing a quality product for the public. And that's what I'm asking you as well. You said you're at the very early stages of it, but we definitely want to have further conversations with you to make sure that we're part of this development and that we're creating a safe, reliable, product to the community.
No, Frank, very, very good comments, and we've, my brother and I have had a long, positive history, with the trades. On a number of projects, Meta, Willow Village, with your trades, leading, Intuitive Surgical, 1 million square foot building, where we had the honor of having your crews and your members, build that state-of-the-art, building and many others over the years. So Frank, as I mentioned, have begun a dialogue with your lead in Santa Clara County, for the MEPSs, and happy to get back together, with you and your members as we continue to progress and continue the dialogue. So I really appreciate you coming out tonight, and a couple of other folks from the trade teams. Appreciate it. Yeah, you bet. Hey, on a side note, when I was in the field doing HVAC, I worked on those buildings right there for Bixby Land Company. So I'm familiar with the property management that managed those and whatnot. And throughout the valley and just everywhere nowadays, there's a lot of vacant office buildings. I know there was a little bit of a vacancy issue in those buildings when I was working on them. And it's good to see redevelopment plans coming out because housing is a necessity in Santa Clara, San Jose, Mountain View, just everywhere, right? And as much affordable housing as we could help create, the better off we'll be. I mean, it's extremely expensive to live in the Bay Area. And if we could keep the folks that were born here and grew up here in the community and being able to meet their dreams of life of owning a home and retiring here and whatnot, that's what it's all about. And that's what we're trying to do with our unions. Just make sure there's good quality products for the people that live in our community. So it's not noted, Frank, but did you say 393? Yeah, UA local 393. Yeah, gotcha. No, thank you, Frank. Good comments. And then I will follow up with you, as I mentioned. I just had a conversation with you 2 weeks ago with some of your colleagues. So we'll tie that, we'll kind of loop you into that. Very good. Thank you so much. You guys have a good evening. Okay, thanks, Frank. And then I don't see any other hands, but I do have 5 either questions or comments in the Q&A section. So if it's okay, Steve, I'd like to at least just hit those. Some have been answered or covered, but I just want to be thorough. Yeah. Matthew, I see your note. I'm going to answer live, but I noted the Spanish style architecture, Santa Clara. So that's kind of, that's noted. Here we have a question around Campbell Avenue, Hairpin, which I know we just chatted about. So thank you for noting that. I would encourage you to include that with the city as well, for the sequoscoping. And then I have a question from an AV, question about trees. Will they be preserved or replaced as seen in the plan and renderings? Will the linear park be accessible to the public and residents in the neighborhood? So on trees, and if AV can leave either contact information or I can include it, we do have a tree removal and replacement plan. We are proposing to retain a number of trees that are essentially on the border between our property line and the Sobrato property line that will actually maintain a nice kind of edge there. And then we're leaving open the option of retaining some of the palm trees that are there because they are, easier to transplant and it's part of the vernacular of the neighborhood. And so we haven't, I don't want to overpromise or under deliver, but I can get back to AV on, or point you to that sheet in our plans or meet with you individually on that. And then in terms of the linear park, that is actually private, open space, so it'll be available to the residents of the apartments and the residents of the HOA. It will not be accessible to the public. And that's consistent with the city of Santa Clara's guidelines around both private and public open space. We will be contributing significantly millions of dollars in park fees that will go to public park amenities. And then where do deliveries go? If you don't make a place and clearly mark it, every package, grocery order will be in somebody's way. Yeah, so in terms of circulation, with apartment buildings, obviously not on El Camino Real, but we've actually done essentially a duck-out, carve-out for loading, unloading, move-ins, move-outs, on the lane that is between the retail and the apartment. So we've actually created sufficient place for deliveries to go straight into the building at that location. Move in, move out, trash has all been kind of logistically reviewed both internally and by the city's various departments as well. So that's how we're handling that. And we obviously thought about that, and we share your concern. You need to dedicate space for that early. Okay, and then there was a concern about low density townhomes near BART, agreeing with others. And then those were the five that were in the chat. So what I want to do is just kind of bring it back and open it back up to make sure we didn't miss anybody or any kind of trailing comments or questions or feedback.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the mission style architecture.
Yeah.
So the problem, what I've found in this city, and I've been here for 20 some odd years, is that generally speaking, that style architecture, you just slap a tile roof on stucco building. So, and then it's very homogeneous. It creates, I like the university, but to me as an architect, it feels homogeneous. So it's nice to have different period buildings throughout the city. I see this more as a more rustic warehouse district because it was a packing plant. And that's what I wanted to ask. Has the architect done research on what the Mayfair packing plant looked like? Was it corrugated metal, siding and roof? Because you can incorporate that, for instance, in the townhouse. The townhouses felt just very box-like with a couple of things tacked onto it, but there's some amazing corrugated metal buildings that are built new or stucco with that have dormers or live-in attics. There's creative ways to create the old building form, but use it for a new use. And so I would first start looking at the Mayfair packing, building and seeing, was it of anything of any interest, and then playing off of that maybe with the townhouses.
Yeah.
But to do too much mission style, it becomes, if it's done at the Santa Barbara level, I'm okay with that. Santa Barbara does it incredibly well. They have a very strong design review.
Yeah.
But
And I went to UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah,
We traveled back regularly. I say it was the best 9 years of my life. It took me a long time to get out of there.
Good for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I'm very attuned to Santa Barbara style architecture and scallops at the roof line and all of that detail. I will tell you, this was not our original townhome design. We also we didn't have the more flat style roofs in our original, right? We had dormer roofs. The issue is fire. And so hitting the 30-foot limit and fire access kind of drove. So there's some technical reasons, but I also hear you on materiality.
Yeah.
And so we'll look at that as well. And then I do find in Santa Barbara that they do that well, but very often it can become monolithic. But this was an intentional directionality toward more modern as opposed to that.
The funk zone is a great example of the counterpoint to what goes on in Santa Barbara, right? Warehouses, industrial, And it's a really nice mix of fun, you know, near the train station. That's what I always thought the
Yep.
train station would be. A little more fun, a little more energy with the architecture,
Mhm.
not so suburban,
Mhm.
residential.
Mhm.
So we can talk.
Okay, yeah, happy to be. And there was John.
Yeah, I just want a second, like, I find that mission style is maybe a great design language for the university, but like, I like the fact that you have a separation, once you're in the university, you know, you're into the neighborhoods, and different design. So, you know, I'm not necessarily a fan, I see where you're kind of a modern, a little bit, but I'm not sure which fan of like modern style. Shows it, but I would just say like, you know, I wouldn't go with mission, I would think of something else.
Okay, no, good feedback.
And I think it was good feedback that like, see if you can find a picture of like the Maker active plan or something, maybe something inspired by it or.
I'll swing back with our design team. Other questions? And then I'll say other questions or comments here, and also for anyone online that missed something, I want to be inclusive, capture, we have the time, so I just want to, and by the way, this, like I said, this is, an early meeting, so happy to connect, via another Zoom, happy to grab coffee. Or if you have quick questions via email, I'll leave my cards as well. Don't hesitate to reach out. So anybody else online, on Zoom that wanted to raise a hand? Okay, seeing none and none in the room. Steve or Jason, again, I just wanted to reiterate, and I'll just let you know, so Jason Lee with the city of San Jose, the planner here, his contact information up on the screen, cards. Steve Lee, obviously, planner for the city of Santa Clara. They have cards and are available. Remember the scoping meeting, same bat time, same bat channel, here next Thursday, 5:30 to 7. In this room, hosted by the city. I'll be here, but I'll be listening, not talking.
Yeah, you said Thursday, it should be Wednesday, June 4th.
Oh, sorry, Wednesday, June 4th, so one day earlier, Wednesday, June 4th. Oh, that was just confirmed.
I also thought, you mentioned the little triangles in San Jose. You mentioned that triangles in San Jose, and I noticed it's not part of the plan, is there like, are you going to become separate from little?
Oh, it is, so it's been integrated,
Are there newer drawings that show?
so the
that?
plans.
It's all linked out.
Yeah, so I guess I should clarify, so the city's protocol typically is they post the original set of plans. And then they note that, plans may adjust or I'll go back and look at what the plans are that are up, because what we can do is if the most updated plans don't reflect that, we can.
Yeah, I can talk about that. So we first post their initial applications for this only the Santa Clara side. At the beginning, we were a little bit, they were debating whether we were annexations or not, so separate the two applications, they would also apply to the San Jose side for just that part, just in case annexation takes too long or doesn't go through. But we did not post the San Jose piece online, so we can update how many units?
13 units. So what we can do is we can coordinate with the city of Santa Clara just to show the comprehensive package. It basically just drops those in. Yeah.
Do you know the ones online, are the latest ones, or is it just your initial submission?
I don't know how the city
It
does
is the
that.
latest only for the Santa Clara.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It is the latest, but with just, okay, yeah.
So yeah, latest with Santa Clara, but I think you bring up a good point. We can just work with them. They've got the full package, so we can just swap those out, so you get a complete picture.
I know sometimes city sites don't seem to make updates, so you get stuff that's like 6 months old, you don't actually see what you guys are.
Right. So just for our commitment though, we'll coordinate together to make sure we get that loaded up for you. Yeah, no, thanks for flagging that. Well, again, thank you everyone very much for taking the time to come out, for taking the time to Zoom. For our Zoom friend who's not feeling well, get better soon. And then again, we're available. I'll be here after if you have any other questions, and then I'll leave some cards too for follow-up. Great, thanks everyone. Have a great night.
Okay, so maybe like
Yes.